How is it going, guys? Malagant here. We'll be looking at the information that we have gotten from the last campfire chat yesterday. So the patch is going to be hitting 111 is going to be hitting August 8th, and we will be getting the patch notes, the entire patch notes on August 2nd. So that said, though, they have given like a lot of information when it comes to like what the patch is going to have and much more detailed or like exampled information, let's say. So I'm not going to be going through everything, but Icy Veins over here has a website or has a page that is giving you pretty much like everything that they recapped about, like everything that they talked about on their campfire chat. And this link is going to be in the description. So if you would like to, you can definitely check it out in detail. I'll talk about the things that like are actually important to me. One thing is that like they talked about, they talked and showcased quite a bit about like barbarian and sorcerer buffs. Also touched a little bit to the other classes. Again, you could check it out on this page. And the thing that is very interesting to me is that like sorcerer's chain lightning right over here, this is like each time chain lightning bounces, its next hit deals 5% increased damage. This used to be so that like each time it bounced off you, so the chain lightning is capable of like bouncing to the character and bounce off again. This was the only time that you were gaining buff. Now this is a ridiculous buff, okay? This is an insane buff, not only for like clearing the screen, because like every time it chains, I should say, sorry, it's going to be increasing its damage, but also for the single target, which was the only reason almost that you were clicking this beforehand, because like versus single target, you were getting close to your target, you were casting chain lightning, it was bouncing off him, and then when it bounced off you back to him again, now it was dealing 5% more damage. Now think about it, it's going to be dealing it's going to the damage that it's going to gain is going to be doubled, because when it bounces off him it will gain 5%, and then when it's going to bounce off you back to him, or you know, back to the creature, whatever, to the boss probably, it's going to be increasing 5% again, so it will be 10 in total, and it will go like this all the time. On top of this, there's going to be a legendary increase as well over here. Legendary buff, chain lightning bounces increased from 2 to 4 for the aspect of the unbroken feather, and so you have even more bounces. So this is going to be something that I'll look at when it comes to like leveling. I'll check this out, and I'll try to like rush my sorcerer into the late game, and I'll play around with it. So sorcerer is going to be my next character again, because like there are lots of like changes to sorcerer, and I wanna see them for sure. So apart from these class changes, which I definitely suggest you to check out, whichever character that you're playing, they talked quite a bit about minions and companions. The lead class designer was talking about, actually he has some sort of like a conflict when it comes to fantasy side of things. He said, you know, druid companions versus the necromancer minions. He was saying that like they wouldn't like to make the druid a better summoner simply because necromancer should be the better summoner when it comes to fantasy side of things. I kind of disagree with this. I actually 100% believe the fact that like this game already deserves a really good summoner build, simply because in all the ARPGs that I played so far, there's always a core community that just 100% religiously enjoys playing summoner builds. It doesn't necessarily need to be animals or like skeletons. It can be totems as well. It could be turrets also, you know what I mean? Like something that you're summoning, and that's the one that's dealing the damage while you still have the control of your character, kind of. So Diablo 4, unfortunately, like even though it offers this, it doesn't necessarily have like a really crazy strong build like this available, and it still won't have it available in this patch either. So that's the biggest problem in my opinion. But again, to the fantasy side of things, if you want to look at it just from like lore or fantasy stuff, you could just say that like druid is capable of, you know, summoning and controlling the nature and the animals or the living, while saying the undead is, you know, being summoned by the necromancer, and the necromancer is capable of like summoning stuff out of corpses and maybe an army, you know what I mean? So fantasy side of things, they're already incredibly different, and they're very unique, right? So it doesn't really matter which one would be the stronger one. And when it comes to the strength, you could make it so that they're already dealing different type of damage, by the way. That's already a fantasy in my opinion. But if you want to have like, you know, this one's stronger than the other one, you could do it as a meta, you know what I mean? So they would both be strong, but druid can be acting a little bit better, perhaps for the single target damage in this season, and on the next season perhaps Necromancer is going to be buffed compared to Druid's minions, etc. So I think that kind of approach needs to happen today, if not tomorrow, because I think there should be a good representation for minions or for summons, definitely. But they're buffing it a bit when it comes to like the damage that they take. The minions, they're going to be taking less damage, especially from like the elite affixes, which is obviously going to be helping a little bit, but I think this is not going to be, this is just going to be like a band-aid on top of the wound, in my opinion. Most of the time I'm seeing Blizzard approaching this way very, very scared. I'm not really sure like what they're scared of, honestly. Like in games like this where there's no competitiveness right now, this is the moment to test things out. I think these like very small steps is, even though it's in the right direction, right, it's not enough for the community, and it doesn't really like show passion and understanding, in my opinion. So especially about these minion things, I think they should be more pacey, let's say more fast. I can talk a little bit about Temerity because I made a video about this Temerity pants the first time I met the pants in the game with my sorcerer on my first character. And I said they're insane simply because they're letting you basically use your potion button at any time in the game. Right now, you cannot use your potion if you're full HP with Temerity equipped. You can use your potion anytime, just like to gain barrier out of nowhere, even if you're full HP. So it like kind of changes your potion capability. And thanks to that, you're capable of like utilizing all the passives or condition things that are requiring you to have barrier. Out of nowhere, you can just keep on getting barrier, you know what I mean? So now all those conditions, they become not so much condition, they become just like full uptime. So now this is getting even more buffed. All stats are changing into max life, and barrier is going to be based on your maximum life. So I'm guessing you're going to have even more barrier with Temerity. And on top of all of that, all the conditions checking if the player has barrier is going to be properly accounted for. So I suppose like there were some conditions, excuse me, that are, you know, not really activating with Temerity or something. So it will be like all of them are going to be activated now. So Temerity is going to be even more insane. They are very good for sorcerer barrier stuff. Very big density changes. As you can see, they have shared like two map, you know, density showcases, let's say, from Nostrava Deepwood. I think the difference is give or take like 30%, perhaps, maybe a little bit higher than that. We'll see. You know, where the monsters are, even though it is usually about the same, it is definitely more dense in the newer version. And this is only going to be an example, and this is going to be for every single Nightmare Dungeon and Helltide. So, they're saying like they won't be increasing the density in Helltide areas that are already dense. So there are like certain section of the maps where in Helltide it is already very dense. So this type of like density increase is going to be basically for the other sections, which is going to be pretty fun. I actually want to talk about like, apart from these patch notes, a little bit about like Helltide, but soon I will work on a guide for Helltide. Where like what you want to do, how to farm the cinders, etc. Because I really enjoy doing Helltide myself, and I think I'm pretty efficient at it actually. So there was, if you're unaware, there was like in the seasonal patch they said it was not intentional, so the developer team called it a bug, where you were getting much less cinders than before, and then they have hotfixed this, addressed this, and, you know, buffed the cinder gain once again after the season 1 was on. However, ever since, I completely changed my strategy. Before, I used to just ping pong between Helltide events. So inside the Helltide, I was just ping ponging between events and just killing, you know, elites or bosses on the way. But now I don't even mount up. Given the mount is very annoying, and ever since the buff, we're also getting lots of cinders from interactables like chests, herbs, ores, and destructibles. And on top of this, it seems like the cinders that are being dropped from regular monsters is a little bit more RNG. So you can, even from like the smallest monster, you can sometimes get 5 cinders out of nowhere. It's like an extra proc or something. So just because of this reason, I don't even like go to the events anymore unless like I end up, you know, finding one by random. I don't look at my map. I'm just like walking around in the Helltide. This can be a little bit of like a tip for you. Just do this. use a potion and then walk around in the Helltide, just kill everything, click everything, keep on walking. You know what I mean? Just engage literally everything, and you're going to be, in my experience, this has been the best farming method for Helltide as of late. When they actually make this happen in 1.1.1, when everywhere in Helltide is going to be buffed when it comes to the density, unless it was already dense, it's going to be just improving the method that I said even more. So I'm looking forward to it. They're interesting legendary buff drop, legendary drop buffs. So treasure goblins, they only have 50% chance to drop a legendary right now. It's going to be 100. So every gobbo is going to be dropping a legendary for us. They're increasing the difficulty of the bosses in both tier 3 and 4. I don't really know what this exactly means. I'm kind of curious, like how much more difficult they're going to be. We'll see. Right now, they're obviously not really opposing any threats, but perhaps they still won't be after this change. But they will be guaranteeing a legendary every time you kill a boss. That's for sure. I would have liked them to say like how much of a percentage we have versus these bosses as well in this patch, so that we can compare. But if they end up like buffing the bosses a lot, obviously this is going to be reflecting onto our builds as well, because now we're going to need a little bit of like a viable single target as well on every single build almost, because otherwise killing the bosses are going to be an issue. The respec cost is going to be reduced in patch 1.1.1. Very good, okay, but this is still not the right or the especially needed change, right? So I'm going to be also addressing this with the stash space too, because we're getting also an additional stash space that can be tab that can be unlocked by 400,000 gold. So it's going to be the next unlock. But the problem is we don't have a search bar. We don't have a place where we can store our aspects, legendary aspects. So they're all going to the stash tab. I have like more than a tab right now for only one character. So respecing is very difficult because of these things, because it's hard to like understand and coordinate like what is going on exactly. And at the same time, it's almost impossible to like respec the Paragon board, entirely, unless you want to have a headache. You just need to right click node by node for hundreds of nodes, which is, not really convenient whatsoever. So you should have like a button to just completely respec your Paragon board immediately. Which should be easy to implement, if I have to be honest. And there should be a search bar in the Paragon board as well, instead of just tags, right? So all those things, basically quality of life. We just need more quality of life when it comes to storing our aspects, storing our elixirs, storing our gems, now the hearts. Like their implementation of the season was not enough. It should have been like implemented with like a better interface, maybe a storage for our hearts, showcasing what we are missing, showcasing what we could do, what we could achieve, etc. Like these kind of things are like very important, instead of just the way that they have implemented. Bloated our inventory with more malignant hearts. Same goes for the stash tab, while we have these campfire chats where developers are promising season 2, season 3 for like elixirs and like gems, but like you didn't wait for season 2 to fix or to add malignant hearts to the game. Like if you're recognizing that we have a problem over here, why are you making it worse? You know what I'm trying to say? So these type of changes, even though it is good, I was not necessarily bothered by the gold price. If anything, by the gold price, I'm bothered by the enchanter at the occultist. Enchanting, I think is what it is called, right? Rerolling a stat is bullshit, honestly. It's the most triggering thing ever. I have a necklace, I think, in the game right now that I'm using on my druid, is offering like +1 to some passive, I don't know, Nature's Grasp, Nature's Reach or whatever. It's just offering +1, and it could be +3, which is not. For me to try and reroll it one more time, I have to spend 21 million gold, I think. So how does this even make any sense? Like, how is it that like I spent so much gold so far on this necklace, right? Up to like 50 million, I think, and I still don't have this +3. And then for the next attempt, I need to like try and like spend 20 million. Like it's just weird, If anything, like that should be touched, not this one. This is another thing that is changing. Leave dungeon button is going to be a 3-second cast one more time. So apparently, like, they didn't want you to use this leave dungeon button as like a get out of dodge button. You know what I mean? So out of nowhere, or you're feeling a little bit risky, like maybe you want to dodge the fight, you just get out of there. So that's why they increased it to 5 seconds. But after the feedback, they were talking about it in the campfire chat. They said that, like, well, for good reason, community said that, like, even though this was a fix towards there, it's slowing down the entire gameplay, and which is not necessarily their intention. So it's not really a good experience. We're just going to bring it down to 3 seconds once again, which is a good change, definitely. Incredible change right over here. This is you know, the cold stone proof that, like, they're listening to the community. Cold Enchanted, Resource Drain, and Backstabber are going to be benched. They're going to be removed from the Nightmare dungeons as dungeon affixes for now. They're all very frustrating to play against, especially Backstabber when it comes to like hardcore playstyle. Resource Drain completely like closes some of the characters. You cannot play your character, or like your playstyle completely changes and becomes like a run, dodge, and hit. The Cold Enchant is the overall frustrating simply because, like, it's offering much more CC to the game, even though we already have a problem of crowd controlling at the late game when there are so many mobs on the screen. And when they're also Cold Enchanted, it's even more CC on your character without any diminishing returns. It just becomes really hard to play, or really frustrating to play with a character that is not capable of gaining unstoppable at will, let's say, or not as much as a barbarian or druid does. So they had like a Q&A, which was pretty interesting all around. But as I said, and this is like an ongoing thing, I suppose we are going to have to deal with this. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of future promise. My highlight from these Q&As and the future promise was obviously resistances. They know it's not impactful, meaningful, and they're working on fixing things. And they've dated this to perhaps season 2. And on top of that, the mount changes, even though they didn't say it in the campfire chat. There was a tweet about it from one of the developers saying that, like, they didn't necessarily clearly mention this, but they will be improving the mounts, and as well as they will be able to just break through the barriers in the game when it comes to boosting, right? So when you're like boosted with your mounts, you'll be able to like break through the barriers. Very good change. If it comes, it will definitely help. But I also would like to have Blizzard work on like the auto pathing of the mounts a little bit, and sort of like getting stuck to, you know, every single obstacle. It doesn't need to stop like that. It can try to be working as a dodge roll does, right? Or a dash. When we want to stop, we will stop anyways, right? And it's not so fast that like we'll be falling down a cliff or anything. Like, I honestly don't know why the mount is so triggered and stopping immediately when it is like getting stuck to something. So I wanted to make this video quite quick, and it has already been like 18 minutes. But I've tried to like cover everything that I wanted to cover at least. Thank you very much for watching, YouTube. I'll see you next time. Peace out.